information. What are we calling it? We're calling it a branch meeting. That's what we're calling it, a branch meeting, with a special guest as well this afternoon, who we're going to introduce you to shortly. So my name's Rob Bradley. I'm the chair of the Yorkshire Humberside branch of the IIRSM, and I just want to say a big thank you to everybody for joining in this afternoon on a sunny Yorkshire afternoon. What a better way of spending it than sat in front of a computer screen on a Friday and listening to me drone on. But anyway, I'm just going to take up a few minutes of your time just to bring you up to speed with some of the things that's going on with the IIRSM in general. But I'd first just like to put out an appeal. You're probably all aware that the Yorkshire and Humber branch has been only fairly recently we've sort of had a bit of a stop-start, a kind of deal going on, trying to get things organised. We've got some new committee members, which is fantastic, some high-powered committee members as well, and we're looking to try and push on and do lots of interesting events moving forward in the future. So just an appeal to anybody who is willing to speak at one of these events, or knows anybody who's willing to speak at one of these events, please to get in touch with us, with one of the committee members, and let us know, because it'd be great. We just want to try and put a program together to create some interest within the branch, and obviously also to help us learn about all sorts of aspects of risk management. I'd also like to thank Andrea, and this afternoon in particular, because she's organised this event, and I'm going to pass over to her very shortly. But first, I'd also like to just highlight a few things within the IIRSM that's going on, or that's happening in the future. First of all, the Risk Excellence Awards, and I know that one of our committee members has been involved in that actively. Hope you're out there. They have now been announced. The finalists have been announced anyway, and the winner is going to be announced at the virtual, unfortunately, Excellence Awards ceremony, which is on the 19th of May between 5 and 6 p.m. if you wanted to tune in to that would be great, and good luck to everybody on that, and from Yorkshire, obviously. There's a big push at the minute in IIRSM on training and training courses and sort of CPD things and so on. And I must admit, I've been on one or two myself in the past, and they've been really, really good. There is a list obviously on the website, but just to sort of give you a heads up, there is might be a bit early for next week, but there's one called Effective Problem Solving that's on next week on the 4th of May. Following that, from the 10th of May, there's something called Embedding Staff Wellbeing, which is appropriate for this afternoon, I think. 17th and 18th of May, there's a thing about ISO standards and risk management. That's a two-day event. 24th and 25th of May, we've got CDM and building safety. So lots of things going on around that at the moment, as I'm sure you're aware. 7th and 8th of June, there's the Managing Risk, the Essentials, which I think has been running for a while, which is really good because I've done that. There's the Introduction to ISO 45003 on the 14th of June. And then there's one called Running an Effective Risk Workshop on the 21st and 22nd of June. So there's quite a lot of things going on there that you might be interested in doing. A couple of things I just wanted to add to as well. I just wanted to make people aware of this this activity called the 1% Safer Foundation, which is basically giving people from Ghana, Nigeria, Pakistan, India, and Egypt a membership for 1 year, which is just trying to encourage the risk management in those countries, which is a good activity. And then finally, a few things where IIRSM are going to be in attendance. There's a few events going on in May. I don't know if anybody's going to go out to Oman to the Global HSE 2022 conference, but that's the 16th to 19th of May. A bit closer to home, but still in a foreign country as far as I'm concerned. 17th to 19th of May, Excel in London for the Safety and Health Expo, and then across the Pennines, but we don't have to talk too much about that one, is the Safety, Health and Wellbeing Live in Manchester on the 23rd and 24th of May. I don't suppose we've got many excuses not to go 50 miles over there, but there you go. So yeah, there's a few things happening there. So hopefully you can get involved in that. But please also do help to get involved with the Yorkshire branch. Join our LinkedIn group if you haven't already done so, and also our WhatsApp group. Again, the information's out there, and just get things moving. It's going to be great to, eventually we might all get together and physically meet, which would be amazing. But we're working on that one as well for this year at some point. So that's enough of me. You've all joined this afternoon to listen to Jenny speaking, and to introduce Jenny, I am going to hand over to my good colleague Andrea, who's going to have a little chat to you about that and introduce Jenny. So thank you very much. Thanks, Andrea.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Rob. Yeah, welcome everybody. Just a quick one that thanks to Jenny Groves, who's agreed to do today's webinar for us. But before we get going, just a bit of a private warning or a health announcement. We are going to be covering a sensitive subject, but we're going to try and do it in a friendly, informative, informal way. So for this to work and for you guys to get the best from this and the most out of it, we need you to take part as much as possible. As far as I can tell, there are no questions off limits. Jenny, tell me otherwise. But it's all about learning, and we're covering a subject that is important in the grand scheme of mental health, and it's not necessarily up there as one of the first things you think about, because it's normally suicide or depression or anxiety. But equally, self-harm has a massive place in the whole mental health plethora, to put it mildly. I met Jenny back in 2019 when I was training to become a mental health first aider. Jenny came out and acted as a plenary speaker where she shared her experiences and basically educated us all in the room. Jenny was one of the first people I thought about to get involved as a webinar. She runs a charity called Battle Scars. As you can see from, she'll explain in a minute, she's basically got a long-lived experience of self-harm, and she's formed a charity that's Leeds-based and is helping people all around the world on a peer support basis. I've got no more to say. I'll hand you straight over to Jenny and you're in Jenny's hands, but throw questions out there, and as far as I can tell, no questions are off limits. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm hoping everybody can hear me. This is a completely different experience with this program. I have no idea what's going on with it. I'm just hoping for the best here. And I don't know if people can see the screen as well. Can you guys see the slides that I've got on? I don't know.
We can see you, Jenny, and we can hear you. Just the only thing is we're just getting a bit of a buzz on your on the speaker.
There's not a lot I can do about that. Is it still there?
It is, yeah.
Right, let me just hold on a second. If I can figure out what I'm doing. How's that? Can you hear me? Is it any better?
Yeah, I think it's a bit better, yeah. Carry on.
Hold on, because I can't hear a thing now. Right, let's try this and see what happens. Hope for the best. Can you also see the slides?
Yeah, we can hear it. Great, thank you. Sorry, we can see
it. The screen as well. Guys, my sound is horrendous. I can't hear anything from you.
We can see the slides fine, Jenny.
Right, okay, good. That will do. Let's just go ahead with this. So, from what you can see in the slides and from what Andrea said, I'm the founder and CEO of Battle Scars now. And yeah, I have got a very long experience of self-harm. To be accurate, 36 years. One of the reasons I started was difficulty processing different emotions and finding what to do with them. I have got Asperger's, which is something I wasn't aware of until quite recently. And as you can imagine, over that period, I tried numerous times to stop. It just wasn't happening. 6 years ago, I actually decided to go cold turkey with it, that kind of approach, which did not work at all, and I really managed to cause my mental health a lot of harm. Following that, we added some medication, some psych medication that really didn't work for me, and it made things worse. So it's pretty much made stopping self-harming almost impossible. And quite recently, I also had a menopause come and hit me in the face. So that's messed everything up even more. So at the moment, yes, I still use self-harm, but I mostly use it to stop myself carrying out a suicide. So it's the lesser of two evils for now. Still working on it. Lots more to come, I hope. And you also see on the screen that I've also got experience as a parent of a child with self-harm. My daughter had a few years of that. Fortunately, she's put that behind her. So I've got experience from different sides of it, and obviously now as a professional working with hundreds of people with self-harm. Our charity is quite small, as you can see on the screen. We do rely very heavily on volunteers. Like Andrea said, I'd be really grateful if you took part. I'm going to do it as a bit of a game in a bit, and you'll be able to put your answers in the chat, and that'd be really nice way, hopefully, to get you guys involved, and then I'll give you a bit more information about things. And there will be time for Q&A at the end. Like Andrea said, there is no limit to what you can ask. There is nothing you can say that's going to make me worse. There's nothing you can say that's going to upset me. So really don't worry about that. If you've got a question to ask it. This is your chance. Just a little bit of information about battle scars. The key thing to remember is that I think 100% survival ed and run. Everybody in the organisation has got lived experience of self-harm. This is how we operate, and this is how it's going to stay. It makes us quite unique. In some ways, it makes us quite vulnerable and even volatile as an organisation, but at the same time, it's also one of our biggest strengths because people relate to us, they open up to us, they feel more comfortable with us, and we're also in a position to educate others coming from that lived experience point of view. I've got our services on the screen just to give you an idea. To be honest, the best place if you're interested is go on our website and have a look. But as you just kind of glance on it, you'll see that we're doing virtual support, face-to-face, online. Some of them are Leeds only, some of them UK-wide. Our online support is worldwide. And we don't just support people with self-harm, we also support the families and the friends. We also support the professionals. We offer training on self-harm or eating disorders. We have got some pilot projects like this Fresh, which is a phone follow-up service to support people who've been to A&E, for example, to get some treatment with self-harm. Lots of resources on the website you guys can have a look at, and printed resources. And as an organisation, you can ask us for some of the printed resources we're sticking in the post. We've developed what we call the 12-step addiction program for self-harm. It is not about abstinence. This is about self-awareness, about learning how to build strategies, putting the toolkit together that somebody needs to help them manage life and manage the self-harm. If you'd like me to come and chat to your organisation, get in touch. More than happy to do that. And just finally, we put them at the end because they kind of go as a bit of a category on their own. Our work with under 18s mostly happens in schools, and obviously that limits us to Leeds, as you can imagine. But we are working on the kids' version of the addiction programme. So that's something a lot of the young people asked us for. So that work on that one's already started now. So like I mentioned, I'd rather you participated in this. It's not just me just sitting here talking at you. So we're going to play a bit of a game. Each screen will tell you what the question is. Is it missing realities? Is it do's and don'ts? Good or bad idea? So I'll give you a statement, and I'd like you to put in the chat what you think the answer is. So I'll make it a bit clearer when I give you the first one here. So this is the first statement. Self-harm means cutting. Do you think that's a myth? Do you think that's true? Are you not sure? You can put yes, no, M-R, N-S, whatever's easiest for you. And hopefully I'll be able to see the answers. So somebody can put an answer in and tell me what you think. Right, it's there. Okay, different section, but I can see them. I hope. Right, I can see the chat, but I can't see anybody else answering.
Yeah, Rob Bradley's answered, not sure.
We've still got distorted sound from some people. I've tried different things, guys. I'm really not too sure what else I can try. Tell you what, you guys keep answering. I'll go get my headset. Should we try that? Just give me a second.
Have we got any more takers on the myth, the reality, or not sure?
Can you hear me? No.
Yeah, we can hear you, Jenny.
Ah, right. Is that any
That's
better?
much better.
And now my door's just opening all by itself. I still can't see the answers.
Yeah, no problem. I can read it out for you. So Alex said myth.
Yeah, okay.
Nick said why. Maybe he means myth.
Yes, yeah. Just go through the answers. I don't need to know who said it. A lot quicker.
Yeah. So there's about 3 people that said myth, and bear with me. And not sure.
So we got a little bit of everything there. Mostly myth, isn't it?
Yeah. And someone said sometimes.
Yeah. So the ones of you said sometimes, yeah, fair enough, because it is unfortunately the most common method of self-harm. But it does take many forms, and I've just put a few examples here just to give you an idea. The first ones, yeah, you're probably thinking, yeah, fair enough. But then things like over-exercising, overworking, disordered eating, whether it's a recognised eating disorder or not, or not drinking enough water, taking risks, self-neglect and thinking negatively about yourself all the time, sabotaging opportunities in relationships, or even forming damaging relationships. They're forms of self-harm as far as we're concerned. We leave drugs and alcohol out. We could easily say they're forms of self-harm. The only reason we leave them out is it would just make a remit absolutely unmanageable. We don't really have a lot of lived experience in those areas. But if anybody comes with these forms of self-harm, like you see on the screen, for example, and drugs and alcohol, we never turn people away, because as far as we're concerned, they are self-harming in various ways, and it's all really coming from the same thing. So we're going to support them to help them just kind of get through whatever it is that's causing stuff. Let's have the next one. Only teenage girls self-harm. What do you guys think? Myth, reality? Not sure. I think somebody's trying to find it. See. So what we got? I can't really.
Yeah, majority has said myth.
Right, brilliant. I'm so glad you did. I mean, we've got 2 issues here with this statement, the teenage part and the girl part. People, self-harm affects people of all ages and all genders. We support families with kids as young as 5 who self-harm, and we support people in their 80s who self-harm who started self-harming in their 80s. Yet teenage puberty really is the most common time that people start, but it doesn't mean that it's just them. And there's, for some reason, it's expected that as soon as teenagers become adults, that they'd stop self-harming as if by magic. Doesn't work like that. And this girls thing, it really stops a lot of men reaching out. And not only some of them are using different self-harm methods that they might not even be aware themselves that they're doing it. Some of them are a little bit more different, or at the end of the day, even if it is cutting, they're usually afraid to reach out. I mean, I have put a thing at the bottom that really, chances are somebody who self-harms. You might not be aware, they might not be aware, but you will know somebody who self-harms. But it doesn't mean that the people that self-harm doesn't make them unreliable, doesn't make them problematic, doesn't make them somebody that you need to really, really worry about, that they're going to be a big problem in your workplace, for example. And it's definitely worth bearing in mind that many high achievers self-harm. So it's not just people with mental health issues who might be struggling. Here's one more statement for you guys. People who self-harm are a danger to others. What do you think? Myth? Reality? Not sure. What do you think? What have we got? I'm literally blind with this. This is not how I was hoping this was going to work out, by the way.
We've got a few myths. We've got not sure. A lot of myths coming through.
Yeah, good. This is another myth that's out there, and it's quite a scary one. If people think that somebody self-harms could also turn on somebody else, that is quite frightening. But really, people who self-harm will turn on themselves very much in order to protect others and avoid hurting somebody else. You have to bear in mind that self-harm is about control. And not a lot of people, if you ask somebody, oh, what are you getting out of self-harm? What do you think self-harm is about? It's about the relief. Well, not everybody gets that release and that relief, but we all get the control. And we're looking for some control of our emotions or our thoughts or the situation that we're in. In some cases, people use self-harm as a form of self-punishment, and they're taking control basically over their self-punishment. To give you an example, and especially with the statement that I've got on the screen. So when I get angry, and that was the reason I first self-harmed, I find anger really difficult to handle. I don't really know how to process it. I find it way too strong, and I need to find a way to let it out. Occasionally, self-harm will be the way I let it out. More often than not, it is the first thing that will pop into my head. And very much because the last thing I want to do is lash out at anybody else. So, so I'll think about a way to let it out in a way where I'm in charge, I'm in control, and it does not obviously involve getting anybody else involved or hurting somebody else. That to me is pretty much abhorrent. I really don't want to hurt anybody else. So we're going to a do and don't situation here. Tell people to stop self-harming. You can put yes or no, let's do and don't, YN, whatever you want. What do you think? Tell people to stop self-harming. Is that a do or a don't?
I think there's a bit of a delay, Jenny. That's why we're getting a delay
That's
response.
fine.
So yeah, so don't. Not sure.
Yeah.
Someone said don't, but ask them to see help.
Mm-hmm.
Don't, it may lead to more harm.
Yeah. It's definitely a don't, to be honest. Like somebody says, you know, encourage somebody to seek some more help. Somebody might not be ready to seek some more help. They might just want to just be accepted to start with as they are. So that's something to just remember. In terms of, you know, telling somebody to stop self-harming, if it was that easy, if it only took was somebody to tell us to stop self-harming and we could do it, believe me, we'd be doing it. Self-harm is not easy to stop, and self-harm gets really ingrained in somebody's life. But to tell somebody to stop self-harming, and we have a lot of cases where parents will tell their children when they find out they self-harm, oh, you know, promise me you won't do this again. And the children might promise because they really want to, and they really want to be able to keep that promise. It doesn't mean that they can. And if anything, you know, they're under so much pressure to keep that promise that the pressure from that could be a trigger by itself. And if they don't manage to keep that promise, not only have they self-harmed again, but they've broken a promise on top of everything. So you can imagine the amount of guilt that person is going to feel. So the one to remember is acceptance. Acceptance can make a huge difference for somebody. And, you know, as an individual, we've got to start with self-acceptance. Accept that this is where we're at this moment in time, and this is what we're doing to manage what's going on. And if we can't accept that, how are we going to start working on it? It's a bit like drawing the line, right? This is where I'm at now. Where do I want to go next? But those around us need to accept it as well, because if they start putting a lot of pressure or forcing us to do stuff, that's going to take a lot of control away from us, which is, you know, that is that, you know, we're looking for that control. That's why we self-harm. If that starts being taken away from us, it's just going to make things worse. So again, you know, whether you're the person who self-harms or the person who knows somebody who self-harms, start with the acceptance and then just be by them, stand by them while they're finding the way forward. How about this one? Physically stop someone self-harming. Do you think it's a good idea, bad idea? Not sure. Again, could put yes, no.
Bad. Really bad idea. Few bads in there. Someone said not sure. You're muted, Jenny. We can't hear you.
You hear me now?
Yeah.
I'm getting really fed up with it. I bet you guys are as well. Sorry about this. So yeah, I think the majority, I think we had one not sure, and most people put bad idea. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So yeah, I think this is where obviously I need to reassure you, and it is on the screen. Actually, for you guys to actually stumble upon somebody who's self-harming, it's going to be very rare. It does not happen often at all. Most of us will ensure that we got that private space if we need to self-harm. But some people with some learning difficulties might self-harm in front of somebody else. And the reason they're doing that is they're using it as a way of trying to communicate. So that's quite a different thing really there. No matter what, try to stay calm, try to talk to that person. Obviously, do not try to stop them yourself, because yeah, you're basically putting everybody at risk at that point. How about this one? Take someone's self-harm tools away. And I'll give you an example. Let's say you are supporting a young person, or it could be a young person as part of your family, and let's say they're using a pencil sharpener blade. Do you think it's a good idea to take someone's self-harm tools away? What do you think?
While we wait, Alex has said, "Don't sweat it, Jenny, you're doing fine."
Thank you.
Don't bother, they will find another, Alex said.
Yeah.
There's a few don'ts.
It's a tough one, this one, to be honest. Especially if it's a loved one. You know, we want to protect our loved ones, and quite often we think that taking the sharps away, for example, is going to do it. Unfortunately, it doesn't do it. It makes the person desperate. And really, in terms of risk, chances of them finding something else and possibly finding something worse is just not really where we want to go. We had a situation with a 10-year-old in a primary school. She used to use the little scissors, and we're talking scissors in primary school. They barely cut paper, let alone anybody's skin. So that's what she was using. And the school found out, and they panicked, and they made sure that she had no access to the little scissors. The next thing this young girl picked up was a piece of broken glass she found in the street. So one of the dirtiest possible things she could possibly find, and something that she really, you know, as you can imagine, a primary school pair of scissors compared to a piece of glass, there's no comparison between them. You know, the piece of glass is obviously so much more dangerous anyway. So then she used something that she was unfamiliar with, that was obviously a lot sharper, and it was obviously a lot dirtier. So, you know, all of a sudden the situation there got so much worse. And just the fact that she got desperate enough to just pick whatever, it shows you how desperate that the mind gets. So taking things away from people is not really going to help. Again, just talk to that person. Try to come up with a plan together. You know, just try to find a way forward. Try to find some strategies that's going to help them. And in some cases, you know, it's better for somebody to have a safe self-harm kit than to let the brain get inventive. And this idea of the safe self-harm kit, if you're a parent that somebody self-harms, that's one of the scariest things that we can suggest to you. We're basically asking you to give them the means to self-harm, but it also includes things to keep whatever they're using clean. And it also includes stuff to look after themselves afterwards. And you might think that's encouraging them. Fortunately, it's not. It does the exact opposite. It gives them control. And just by having that level of control, quite often that will take away their need to self-harm as well, or it will just reduce it enough that they can then avoid it. And then we're also obviously emphasizing about how to keep your injuries clean, how to protect yourself, how to avoid infections, and it brings in that self-care element. A lot of people self-harm are missing that element. They don't feel the worth, the self-care, they don't feel they're good enough to look after themselves. So we really want to introduce that. The big thing it does is it encourages trust and communication, and brings it out in the open. Big problem with self-harm is the secrecy about it, and people not being able to talk about it. All of a sudden you do that acceptance. I accept this is what you're doing right now. Doesn't mean we have to stay with this. We can build on it though. So it's quite a positive thing, no matter how scary it sounds. Let's go into more of the organisational bit here. Have a self-harm policy in your organisation. Good idea, bad idea, you're not too sure. And I know some organisations might have something mentioned in a safeguarding policy, for example, but we're talking about specific self-harm policy. What do you think?
Great idea. Good idea. Matt said, not sure in view of legal redress implications. Alexa, depending what it says and what it does, potentially is great idea.
Yeah, I can understand a bit of concern there. The thing is to remember is that self-harm happens, whether you've got a policy or not. It does happen, and it's guaranteed, you know, that somebody in the workplace is probably self-harming. So then the thing is, you know, how's your organisation going to deal with it? How are you going to react? What's going to happen? What if somebody self-harms in the workplace? What if somebody brings sharps and they're quite desperate and they ask you to hold them for you, to ask you to hold them for them? So, you know, what if they say, if somebody comes to you and says, I self-harm, I'm quite worried, I'm feeling quite twitchy, I have got a razor on me, could you please look after it for me? I don't want to use it while I'm at work. So what you're going to do? And what does your organisation, you know, if you decide, no, I'd rather take this off this person because that's going to keep them safer, how's your organisation going to react? Your organisation or somebody who could very possibly just react in panic and make the completely wrong decision there. You find yourself in trouble. On top of that, what if the person who gave you the razor says to you, can you look after it while I'm at work, but can I have it back when I'm leaving? What are you going to do? Let's say you're comfortable to give it back. Let's say you can trust this person to look after themselves and you're thinking, no, I'm going to build on this trust here. But what if your organisation's against that idea and you get into trouble? You see, you start walking on very thin ice with a lot of this stuff. I'm not saying you're going to be comfortable doing it, and I'm not saying that any organisation has the right to tell you if somebody gives you a sharp because they don't want to use you that you should take it. But you kind of set some parameters about how the whole thing's going to be dealt with. So if you've got things like, just bring it up now. So the whole idea is to have a think about, as an organisation, how you're going to handle these situations. And once you've decided, let the staff know, you know, if this happens, if you self-harm at work, this is what's going to happen. We're going to talk to you. We're going to help you put a plan together. We're going to ask you not to self-harm at work. If you do it twice, then this is what's going to happen, for example. These are just examples, okay? We can support you writing a self-harm policy. There is a resource on a website that basically makes you, as an organisation, ask these kind of questions and make some decisions. And in some cases, it would be a member of staff can do that if they're comfortable doing that. So, you know, you can't really dictate to you. But at the same time, we can also say, if somebody gives you a razor and you're happy to take it, you have to dispose of it, for example. You're not allowed to give it back. But then you start thinking as an organisation, where am I going to dispose of this? It's just to make you think, really. And also by publicising this amongst your staff, it might not be the approach that they'd like, but then they're very aware of what approach the organisation is going to take. So one, that it will alleviate their fears in a lot of ways, because the known is much better than the unknown. And very possibly, if you've got quite a supportive policy there, it's more likely, obviously, that they're going to reach out and try and get some support. So you might have mental health first aiders. That could be their first point of call, or it could be that they feel more comfortable talking to the line manager, for example. You know, it's a big step for somebody to take. But if they feel that they've got some control somewhere to make an informed decision, for example, that's going to be quite reassuring for them. It's going to be quite helpful. Last statement I've got, if this wakes up. Self-harm is complex. What do you think? Myth, reality? Not sure.
Your reality is coming through.
Mm-hmm.
Lee said can be, but not sure what he means.
Yeah. I think if we're looking at the whole thing, you know, as behaviour.
Yeah, so majority said yeah, can be.
Yeah.
Sorry, reality.
Mm-hmm. In some cases, you might think, well, it's pretty straightforward. You know, like that person is going through a divorce, for example. Yeah, okay. They try to deal with what's happening and all their emotions linked to it by using self-harm. But as a whole concept, as a behaviour, it is very complex because people do it for so many different reasons, get so many different things out of it. The root of the problem is just so many, and some, you know, so varied as well. Could be anything from abuse to maintaining high standards. There's just so much in there. So the thing that I'm trying to say here is really just don't make any assumptions. Try to treat everything as an individual case. Just have a chat with that person, try to figure out what's going on for them, and just listen. So if you take some things away from today, you know, please make no assumptions. Try to reduce guilt and increase acceptance, and try to remember that it's about control, and that will give you some kind of parameters to help you kind of deal with some of this stuff and try to understand them a bit more. And this is where we get into, it's up to you now.
There's a question that came through from Greg. How can you distract someone from self-harm to self-help?
Well, they're going to want it to start with. You got to make sure that there's something that they want to do. So again, we see we're starting, there's an assumption there that they want to stop, that they want to do something about it. Find out if they do, find out what they'd like to do. In some cases, somebody might say, actually, I do want to stop. Yeah, but we can't jump from A to Z without all the steps in between. So then we start looking, yeah, this is where distractions can come into play. And it's quite difficult sometimes to separate distractions from alternatives and better coping mechanisms. Because for one person, you know, it could be the same thing, could be all three, for example. So something happens, you get upset and you speak to a friend. It's a distraction, but it's also a better strategy. You start reaching out, you start looking at the problem, you start kind of offloading, you're not keeping it all in. So, and then distractions, everybody's different and everybody has to explore it and find what works for them. Again, what works for me is not going to work for the next person, and what works for them won't work for me. And encourage people to kind of think out of the box a little bit. You know, just because everybody says, oh, do some colouring in. Well, I hate colouring in. There's no way you'd catch me colouring in. And if somebody suggested that to me, I'd probably get quite angry with them. But if somebody started saying, you know, what sort of stuff do you enjoy doing that you find quite relaxing or you find that you can immerse yourself in? And I say, oh, you know, I really like music and I really like woodwork. Well, okay. Are these sort of things that you can incorporate to help you distract yourself and move away from self-harm? So it's just allowing somebody to just kind of explore it a bit.
Thanks, Jenny. Another question is, do you tend to find self-harmers to do it in secret?
Right. Two things here. I really object to the term self-harmer. You probably just blushed with me just saying that. Sorry. But if you describe somebody as a self-harmer, and even worse, some people actually use the term cutter. Well, it's what we do, it's not who we are. It's only one behavior. So, you know, if you want to describe somebody, it's much better to use the term somebody who self-harms. So as for the secrecy part, yeah, it's a private thing. And because a lot of people would react badly, or would judge us, or would get angry at us, then we're obviously very reluctant to let anybody into that secret. And a lot of people will just keep it hidden. You know, it could be that somebody's immediate family knows, for example, but they'll keep it hidden at work or hidden anywhere else that they go. Like I said, a lot of it is because of these myths that are out there. A lot of it is because people thinking that you're dangerous or that you're silly and all that side of stuff.
Thanks, Jenny. Another question is a GP the right first choice?
Can be. It is a little bit of a gamble, but yeah, we do advise people to speak to their GP. It's starting from somewhere. Unfortunately, some GPs don't have a lot of experience. I mean, in general, with mental health and a lot of this stuff, they just haven't had a lot of training on them. So they might not be able to offer a lot. Again, some might help you to explore it. Some might be there for you. Some might help you with knowing when you need medical help, or they might actually treat you with such respect and kindness that you know that's exactly what you need. At the same time, you know, they might just say, "Oh, why are you doing that? You shouldn't be doing that anymore." You know, it varies, but yeah, it is a good place to start off with. But quite often, there's not a lot they can offer. That's the problem that everybody's going to face at that point. There is not a lot of support out there. You know, in the entire country, I think there's only 4 organisations working on self-harm, and we're the only ones who not only work with all ages, a lot of genders, also the only ones who are entirely survivor-led and run. So you might have something in your area, but you're over the age of 25, in which case they can't support you. And that's quite a blow for somebody. You finally summon up the courage to reach for some help, and you find out there isn't any. That's when it starts becoming really difficult, and everybody's going to feel quite helpless at that point and quite stuck with it. So we're trying to expand a lot of our services. The virtual ones, like I said, they're easily accessible, and even the face-to-face ones, we are working towards finding ways to replicate them in, you know, outside of Leeds.
Any quick question. How would you start a conversation with somebody you suspect is self-harming?
A lot will depend on the relationship you got with that person and what you suspect. The thing is, you know, definitely gently. And the other thing to remember is that control thing. This is where that control comes into play quite a lot. And that will, if you've got that in the back of your mind, it will help you ask better questions or approach it in a better way. So, you know, we're saying about suicide prevention, we need to point it out. We need to call out about the elephant in the room. That is the best approach. With self-harm, that's not the case, because you point at the elephant in the room, the person goes into panic. If they're not ready to talk about it, they're going to be caught completely unprepared, and like I said, they're going to go into panic. So it's not like you're kind of helping them, giving them the opportunity to talk about it. This is where the how you're going to do it, that really is going to matter. So if you go, oh, I can see you self-harm, let's talk about it, It's like, no, you're all right. I'm running out of here. But if it's a matter of, hope you don't mind me saying, but I kind of notice your arms, and we're talking about some of the obvious stuff now, okay? Because really, in a lot of cases, you're not going to see anything. You won't have a clue unless they let you in. So let's say you saw something that looks like self-harm scars or self-harm injuries, you know, if they're fresher. So you might say, you know, I hope you don't mind me saying, but I kind of saw your arms and it did look like self-harm to me. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. You know, you don't need to even tell me if that's true or not. But if you need to talk about it, I'm here. So there, you pointed it out, and it's quite nice to point it out, because really, what, you're going to hold it to yourself and ignore it? That's not an option either, is it? So, but then you basically said, it's your choice if you want to talk about it or not. So you put him in the driving seat there. You gave him options, you gave him control. Automatically in somebody's mind, once they got past the panic, that's an option. Somebody noticed, but didn't make me talk to them on the spot. Didn't force me to say anything, didn't insist they saw my arms or anything like this. They didn't make me feel uncomfortable. And yeah, I admit they might have felt a bit uncomfortable because he's a bit problematic. But it's allowing him to be in control. That's a huge thing.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jenny. But just a final question from Lee. He said, interested that you said you will get angry. Would you say it's a bad idea to recommend other mechanism? How would you signpost them?
I'm trying to think which part I said I was getting angry about. Sorry, brain not there. How would you signpost them? Even the way I do it sometimes, just give somebody choices without putting them on the spot. I just leave one of our business cards lying around and one of our leaflets lying around. So it's like, I know, but I'm not going to shove you in a corner, but here's an option. Here's something you can have a look at. And then you can follow it up at another time, you know, it's like, well, I don't know if you spotted it, I left that out there for you. And they might say, oh yeah, you know, thanks, I checked it out, or yeah, I haven't looked at it yet. Okay, fair enough. So there's very, very gentle ways to just kind of approach it to make it acceptable. It's like I said, we're going to start from somewhere. And again, it's just whatever you ask, whichever way you approach it, whichever way you try to encourage them. More often than not, you know, everybody comes with good intentions with this stuff, but sometimes people really do something that's just so wrong, I'm afraid, that he frightens somebody off, and he might make him just want to hide it even more. So it's very important how we approach it, and you know how gently we do it. And again, just make sure they're in control. Make sure they've got an option. Even if you start the conversation and they start talking about it, you can just say to them, look, we're only going to talk about what you want. I'm not going to force you anything. If I ask you a question, you can just tell me you don't want to answer, and that'll be fine. So there's a lot of ways to reassure somebody and just encourage them at the same time. It's about building trust, about opening communication channels, and they could take a little while. But that person could really, really appreciate that you're trying and you're just going at their pace and allowing them to be more in control of it.
Thank you, Jenny. I think, and just regarding the mechanism, I think he's referring to, you know, what do you do to cope with, you know, certain type of stress that you deal with when it comes to self-harm. I mean, how do you cope, your coping mechanism? And I think he was referring to, you know, when people tell you to to do the drawings and the colouring in, you know, that kind of makes you angry. I think that's what he's referring to.
Right. Well, at that point, you know, I'd say, look, that's not something that I find helpful. You know, I'll do this and that instead. That's what I find better for me. But I usually explain to people that sometimes, unfortunately, nothing else is going to do it apart from self-harm. Sometimes that is the only thing that's gonna help me. But then for me, it's quite important to do it while I can still control it and do it as safely as possible. So no matter how many other options I have, unfortunately, sometimes that's the only one that's going to tick the box. So again, I have to accept that for myself, and I expect those around me now to accept it as well. I will try really hard, and I will try lots of things. I'm not going to jump to self-harm. It's not going to be the first thing I'm going to do. But sometimes it might be the last thing I'm going to do. As I said, it depends on the situation, depends on whether I've had the opportunity to do, you know, what if my better coping mechanism is something that I don't have access to? In the meantime, I'm delaying stuff. I'm trying to find something else which might not be helping enough. Like I say, you know, let's say I'm somewhere outside, and by the time I get home, it's like 6 hours later, and I'm so wound up that I know by that point nothing's going to do it. By that point, it's very possible my brain's just gone into, no, it's time to kill yourself now. What am I going to do? And I'd tell you what my family's going to suggest at that point. Even they're going to say, what have you tried? This, that, and that hasn't worked. Next thing, you know, I really get into the point where I want to kill myself now. They'll be like, is it time to try resetting? Is it time to try self-harm and see if that does it? I have got to that point because I have tried lots of other things. I have tried services, I have tried crisis support, I have tried reaching out to other organisations and other people. Like I said, self-harm is my last resort. And compared to killing myself, I think, yeah, I will try it. I will try to stay alive and fight another day. Because maybe next day I don't feel that rough, and then I can bring everything else back into play, and I can survive, and I can be useful, and I can function.
Great, thank you so much, Jenny. Andrea, would you like to close, or do you want me to just carry on?
Yeah, you carry on, Susan, that's fine, thank you.
Yeah. No problem. Any final questions, anyone? If you don't have time to, or you know, if you wish to have more of a personal question, you can send any questions to training@IIRSM.org, which we're happy to forward that back to Jenny and answer any questions that you may have. And also just a reminder that this webinar will be put on our YouTube channel, IIRSM YouTube channel, and you can recap in anything that you wish to recap. And there's one more question that came through just now. Mark has said, broadly, does self-harm provide instant relief, even if in its short term?
It's one of the big things about it. It's quick. It can provide with an instant result. Again, I'd rather we moved away from the expectation that it will bring relief, but it can provide quite an instant result and, you know, satisfy the person's needs at that moment in time. Yeah, like you said, it is temporary. Self-harm can do a lot of things for us. It can help us ground, it can help us clear our heads, it can help us stay alive. With a lot of limitations, it can't solve a problem. And that's where we're having a lot of issues with people, that they constantly use self-harm without trying to look at the problem. We try to help them manage the self-harm, but also if they've got to the point where they have to self-harm and they've got that clarity of mind perhaps, or that relief or that release that they were after, to then do some reflection, start looking at, is there something different I could have done? Could I have used something different? Could I have spoken to somebody? Could I have reached out somewhere? So it's a way to start off with, encourage somebody after they're self-harmed if they're in a better state, to start looking at the problem. As they start doing that, they start thinking about better strategies. So there's a lot of benefit from it even after the self-harm. Hopefully next time they'll remember those strategies before the self-harm. That's, you know, but it's a process and it takes time. And obviously the longer somebody uses self-harm, the harder it is to find other alternatives, which is really important why we support people as early as possible. And, you know, this is where it's also very important that we talk about self-harm. The more we talk about it, the more people will go, yeah, I don't want to go there actually. You know, we speak to young people in schools and it's like, do you really want to be self-harming 30 years down the line? There are so many better ways to help you manage what you're feeling. You might not get that quick instant result. It's not like going on Google and Googling something and finding it. That's one of the attractions of self-harm for the young people. It's that instant result. But it's the long-term implications of it. Self-harm stops us learning better methods because it's easy and quick. That's why we need to try to support people to stop going down that path. But in order to stop going down that path, it's that long process of just slowly understanding oneself, slowly replacing things, slowly putting the distractions in, slowly bringing the alternatives, slowly bringing, you know, building a support network. But we can't expect anybody to do that overnight. So all of us have got a big role to play in being more open about it and just discussing it. If you just sit around making a cup of coffee, you know, in your workplace, and you more openly kind of discuss just the topic that you attended this today, and this is the sort of stuff that you found out. Could be that person that you're talking to does self-harm, and the message they're going to get is, okay, this is somebody who's happy to bring this topic up. This is a potential safe person for me to reach out to. That could be massive for somebody.
Okay, thank you so much, Jenny, for a very, very informative, sensitive, but informative and educational discussion, which I think also is very, very important to have to raise awareness as well and help the people that need help. And I would like to thank Andrea and Robert as well for getting this webinar ready for us and for your branch. And yeah, thank you. Jenny, would you like to say anything just before we close?
Just a big thank you to everyone. You know, just the fact that you attended knowing that this was the subject. That's quite brave. But yeah, thanks, and try to do something nice after this. Try to wind down. You might need a little bit of time to process stuff. Just do it gently.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone, and thank you, Jenny, Andrea, and Robert. We'll now close. Bye.